Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Love, and as you can see today, I'm with my sister Shreya. This is one of the most requested videos as I got from many of you people. So in today's video, this video is actually a part 2 of the video I made for what documents you would need to carry at the airport if you're looking to travel to Canada in 2021. Could be tomorrow, next month, or next week. So if you haven't watched that video, I would recommend you guys to watch that video first, as this video is a continuation of the previous video, and my sister would be discussing about her experience at the immigration in Indian airport and as well as at the Canadian airport. So for those who are looking for those who are looking for answers for the immigration experience, this video is for you guys. So before wasting any time, let's just get into the video. But before we begin, Shreya, would you like to introduce yourself?
Mhm. Hi everyone, my name is Shreya. As Love already mentioned, I am his sister. Today I am here with you guys to help you with all the anxiety that has been surrounding with traveling to Canada. So, firstly, I would like to introduce myself by telling you what I am doing in Canada at the moment. I have been in Canada for over 3 years now. I came in an undergrad program at University of Waterloo, where I studied a Bachelor of Maths degree, majoring in actuarial science and statistics. I just graduated from university and moved to Toronto. So, yep, I would love to help out with all these questions today, love, and I would love to help out the people who are actually going to be visiting Canada soon. So, yep, let's go ahead with it.
Okay, so before I begin, Shreya, I would like to let you know that I did prepare 10 questions for you. So, for all who are watching, as you can see, the questions are on the left side of the video. So, you can see the questions as well. And Shreya will be answering all these questions one by one. And at the end, if you could give some tips and suggestions to anyone or a newcomer who is coming to Canada, it will be great. Okay,
Sure.
so let's begin. So I'll start with the first question. So as you can see, the first question I have for you is, how was the situation when you arrived at the Delhi IGI airport for your flight to Canada? Was it like crowded over there or empty? And lastly, how early would you recommend someone looking to travel to Canada to arrive at the airport for his or her flight?
Mhm. Okay, so this time I came back in the first week of December. Uh, at the airport, it wasn't at all crowded. Like it was not like the usual crowd that you could still like go inside, and there were like not a lot of people, some designated amount of people inside. So only the people who have essentially reasons to travel to different countries, only those kind of people were there. They were either students, they were permanent residents, Canadian citizens, or at the airport, people traveling to other countries, maybe citizens of that country. Like it wasn't people who were actually going out for vacations that you usually see. That wasn't the case here. So while entering inside the airport, one thing that was new was there was a shield where, for example, when you enter inside the airport, what usually happens is there's a security guard who checks your passport and everything. But this time they had like a booth in which the security guard was standing, and you had to just place your paper, like your ticket, your ID, like your passport, on the screen itself, and he just looks at it and lets you in. That was it for the entrance, and then when you go inside, there was not at all a rush. So it was very easy to just get there to whichever flight you were going to get to the boarding and get your boarding pass. So firstly, there were two lines. Usually, when you go inside, you just have to go to one line where you just give in like get your boarding pass and submit your check-in baggage. But this time there were two lines. One was for checking out that if you're really eligible to travel back. So that was a separate line. You first go through that line, and then what they asked there were some basic documents like your enrollment letter and your offer letter from university, what kind of program you were studying, study permit. And then after that, the second line that you go through is the usual checking in your baggage, getting your boarding pass. So all in all, it wasn't way too much of a rush. It was pretty easy to get in and like directly go to the airline that you're traveling with. So yeah, not the usual rush. So I would recommend for someone who is doing an international travel right now. I think 3 hours is a pretty decent. I would say pretty decent time to reach the airport.
Right.
And yeah, I think 3 hours is pretty good. Usually, it's the norm. Like you have to be 3 hours or 4 hours early. So yep, 3 hours is pretty
Okay, yeah, I agree with you. So I hope everyone got their answer for the first question. So we'll move ahead with the second question now. So as you can see, the second question is, so I think you already answered half of it. So basically the question is, what questions did the airline staff or officers ask you before handing you your boarding pass? And what documents did they ask you to see? Like, did they ask you to see any app on the phone or like the document? Or you know how in India we have the Arogya Setu app or the ArriveCan app. So what documents did they ask?
So, as I said, there were two lines when you go into the airport. For the first line when they were checking your eligibility. So there, the airline crew member asked me for my study permit, my enrollment letter from university. It should be an official enrollment letter, not something that you could like get on yourself, like produce on your university account yourself. It should be from a university. It should be an enrollment letter that you are enrolled in university. Or if you're a new student, then you should have an offer letter. It is super important to
The
have that
letter
in
of
your hand.
acceptance.
Try and keep these documents, yeah, try and keep these documents handy because you're going to go in and you will have to show them that you are eligible for traveling back. And then, yeah, these three documents, I would say enrollment letter, offer letter, study permit, passport, these are the things they just look at to make sure you're actually a student who's traveling back. And then the second line, not a lot of questions, I would say. Just like I ask you like very decent, very basic questions. Why are you going to Canada? Why will you be traveling? Like, why are you going to Canada? What's your program at the Delhi airport? This is what they ask. Like, what's your program? Just be confident in yourself. You need to know what kind of program you're going in, right? I think that's the only thing. Like nothing out of the blue, nothing like that suddenly caught me off guard. But yeah, I think pretty decent questions, not too much to worry about.
Okay, yeah, that's good. So that was my second question. Now on to the third question. So the third question that I have is, did you face any problem with the airline staff members for your baggage? Because sometimes they do create problems. So like, did you face any issues with the weight of your bags, or did you see any other passengers facing any problems like that?
So I was traveling with Air India, and Air India, just keep this in mind to all the students out there. Air India allows you three baggages of 23 kgs each if you're traveling in economy. So always remember this is the policy for only for students. So it is important that you know this. If you have extra stuff, don't worry. You can bring three bags and you can check them in, but they have to be within 23 kgs each. So when I got in, I knew this policy was there. When I got in, I had three baggage, like the huge suitcases that I wanted to check in. And then when I went to the boarding staff, what they told me was, "Hey, we just allow two baggages. I think you'll have to pay for the third one." But no, you know, you should be confident in yourself. You know that this policy is written on their website. So you need to mention this. You need to make sure that you are letting this out and you're telling them that no, you have three baggages allowed. You should go over and check. Even if you're a returning student, even if you're a new student, doesn't matter. As long as you have a valid study permit, you're allowed to carry three check-in baggage. So I think it wasn't really a problem. It was just a matter of telling them, explaining them your situation, which took like what a minute to do so. And then, yep, they were pretty happy to just take my three baggages, and like I didn't have to pay anything. And similar, it's like similar for everyone. They just ask, they you just need to tell them that we have three check-in baggage, and I'm a student and I'm eligible. So yeah, I will be checking in three baggages. It wasn't a huge major issue to be honest.
So I have a question for this, like what you mentioned. So do you think like students should take this as a proof in their emails? Like should they email the airlines they're traveling with to get a proof, like a written proof of how much baggage are they allowed, or should they just tell the officers or the staff members over there and tell them to look on the website?
I think it's best if, like, you can never be too sure, right? So it's best if you email the airline like a week or two in advance, so you have it written on your email. I did that too. So a week in advance before traveling, I emailed Air India and I got them in writing that, okay, I'm a student, so can I carry three check-in baggage? And they said yes. So I had it all in my email and my phone. It was ready. I was ready to show it to the boarding member if like they created any problem, but they didn't really. So yeah, it's a good idea if you email the airline beforehand and you have it written or maybe a printout in your phone so you could show it to them and you don't have to pay any fees. Just like follow the guidelines.
And were they checking like the Arogya Setu app on the in the line?
No, not really. People did tell me that they might, but I think just to be on the safer side, it's good if you have the Arogya Setu app in your phone. Nobody asked me for it, but once you're going in, maybe the security guard might ask you. So just to have it handy, make sure you have it in your phone, you have it all working. Yeah, just to be sure.
Yeah, you never know because you're just talking about your experience, and there are like thousands of students, so they could ask anyone anything, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So now my next question, which is my fourth question for you, as you can see, is so basically after you received your boarding pass from the airline, then I think you had to go through the immigration part, right? So like, what questions did the officers ask you over there, and like, did you face any difficulties with their questions, or like, how was it?
So, as I mentioned, the officers at the Delhi airport are pretty nice. Like, they are really calm. They really want you to go through. They don't really necessarily create problems. As long as you have your documents like study permit handy, your passport handy, I think you will be pretty fine. Like, I went there and it took like 10 seconds. And they were asking everyone similar kind of questions like, why are you going back to Canada? What kind of program are you studying? Like only two or three questions, nothing about the quarantine plan, nothing. Like they're not going to ask you that in the Delhi airport because you're leaving Delhi or you're leaving India. You're not really coming into India. So just like basic questions about why you're traveling, what kind of program you have. So I think that's pretty decent. Anyone can just talk about that. So yeah, not a big problem there.
And I think now after 7th of January, they did enforce the new rule of the COVID test. So I think they would be asking for your COVID test result as well. So that is one of the most essential document that you will need to carry, and the officers can ask you over
Yep.
there.
So when I was traveling, a COVID test wasn't required, but still, to be on the safer side, I was carrying a COVID test with me. So it's always good to have one, but yep, as it's compulsory now, so I bet the immigration officer might ask you, or even the airline might ask you. So yeah, just keep that handy as well, and there shouldn't be a major problem at the airport, to be honest.
Okay, sounds good. So let's move on to the next question. So our next question is question number five. So basically, this question is, were there any students or anyone in general facing problems at the immigration in the Indian airport? And like, you know how sometimes we hear in the news like the airlines did not allow students to board the flight or some other problems. Did you see any type of problems over there at the airport? And if yes, then what type of problems were there?
So I personally didn't see any major problems like not letting people on the plane.
Mhm.
This only happens when your documents are not legit. So it is very important. Obviously, no one is going to be traveling with fake documents. So
That's true.
yeah, just like if your documents are original, you have everything handy, you can explain yourself, you can tell about your program, you can talk about why you're going, you are aware about what you're doing. I think that's all you need. Like, there's not going to be any boarding issues. Those deportation news come only because people are carrying fake documents, or they do not have or they do not have all the information about their program. I mean, you should be aware about what kind of program you're going to Canada for, why you're going to Canada for. You should be aware about that because you're mostly traveling alone, right? So they just don't want you to board the flight and be like, hey, be on your own, even when you're not that aware. So it is very, very important that you're aware about what you're doing. You can explain yourself. And I guess if you're going to Canada, you're probably a smart person already. You got an admission into Canada, and and like if you're going into a program, you must know about it, right? So yeah, I mean, as long as you can explain yourself, as long as you have all the documents in hand, you should be pretty good.
See, I think the best step would be just to be confident because you did apply to the university genuinely. You do have the genuine
Right.
documents, so why like get scared from the officers, right?
There's no need to be scared. Like, you're paying for your ticket, you're paying for everything, you
Mhm.
have your documents. There's nothing to be scared about, like nothing at all.
Right. All right. So let's move on to the next question, our question number six. So as we all can see, so the question is, so this question was asked to me by by my few subscribers. So this question is, are we allowed to take a 1 or 2 stop layover flight to Canada, or do we necessarily have to take the direct flight from India? And what would you recommend, like personally?
So there's no such rule that you can't travel, like you have to travel in a direct flight. There's no such rule like that. But I believe that I personally traveled in a direct flight, and I would say in order to like minimize the spread of the virus, in order to protect yourselves, it's much better to just book a direct flight. Why all that hassle of getting off the flight and getting on another flight? So I think just to avoid that hassle, just to avoid the spread of COVID, just to protect yourselves from the virus, I think it's best if you take a direct flight. There's no such rule that you
Mhm.
have to take it, but if you can afford it, then definitely take a direct flight. It's much better. It's like better than working the precautions than being sorry later.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. Okay, that was for question number six. Now let's move on to the question number seven, which is, so you took the direct flight to Canada. So after you landed in Canada, more specifically, you landed in Toronto, right? So how was the situation over there at the airport? Like, was it crowded in Toronto or was it empty? And did you get like confused at any stage at the airport? Because some students will be going for the first time. So what do you recommend over there?
So as I said, like just like the Delhi airport, Toronto airport is also a main airport in Canada. So like
Mhm.
people usually come to Toronto airport, where whichever province they're going to, it's usually the most crowded airport. But surprisingly, it was not at all crowded. Like when you come in, when you're coming off your flight, what happens is all the people who are in your flight will be sent to a lobby where you will just see people who were in your flight. There won't be any other people from the airport, like no other flight passengers coming in. It would be just your flight people. So you will all be seated in a lounge area. You will all be guided. You just need to follow their directions. It's just really simple. You sit in a lobby, and then everyone to go through the immigration process, everyone is called in batches. So like they call in 20 people, then after that 20 people, just like how you're sitting, they just like call you and say, okay, this row, like people were sitting in rows in the lobby, right? So they were like picking, okay, people from these two rows who are sitting can just go in a line to the immigration now. This was just done to prevent the spread of virus, in order to, like, when they knew that people in front of those have already passed, then they were letting the people behind to go next. So yeah, it was just to protect people from the virus and to prevent the spread, the infection. So that was just happening. Like you were going in batches, and then it's a really simple airport. They have directions everywhere. They have signs everywhere. So you cannot be lost at the airport at all. There are people around who can ask, so that wouldn't be a problem. And yep, it was not at all crowded. It took me like 10 minutes, I would say, through the immigration process. But of course, because everyone was being sent in batches, that took a long time to go through.
And maybe because you are a returning student and you do have a study permit already, so it might take a little more time for the ones who are going for the first time because they will be issued a study permit over there, right?
Yeah, like keep a 2 to 3 hours time gap. You should know that okay, it can take maximum 3 hours to get out of the Toronto airport. So
Mhm.
it's better if you keep that in mind. If you can get out early, good for you.
And there are some students who will not only just get out at Toronto, but they might have connecting flights to Montreal or somewhere. So the tip here is that you do need to have at least 2 or 3 hours gap between your connecting flight in order to get out of the immigration. and your immigration and your study permit will be issued to you at the Toronto airport and not at the next airport. So the first airport that you land in Canada, you will have to go through all that immigration process, which will take around 2 to 3 hours. So do keep like 2 or 3 hours difference between your next connecting flight.
Yeah, like not necessarily, but it's best. Like you don't have to hurry once you get out
Hmm.
on the flight from the flight on to at Toronto. You don't have to hurry if you have like a 2 or 3 hour layover at Toronto.
Right.
If you don't, like if your flight is immediate, I think that wouldn't be a problem too, because there was a different line and a different route to go
Oh,
for connecting flights. So I'm guessing that shouldn't have been too busy. But yeah, it's a good idea if you have an hour or two before your
next
connecting
connecting
flight.
flight.
It'll give you plenty of time, and it will, like, you won't have to rush too much.
Hmm. Okay, so let's move on to question number eight. So as you can see, so the question number eight is actually a star question and is the most asked question. So this question is, how did your interview go with the immigration officer in Canada, and what sorts of question did they ask you over there?
So at the immigration in Canada, as I said, like it was just the wait in the lobby. After that, the immigration lines were pretty empty. Once you go to an officer, they're going to ask for your documents. The first thing they do is ask for your documents like study permit, offer letter, passport, um, yeah, like quarantine plan. You should have a PDF of that in case they ask. And then
Like a
you,
hard
it's not
copy.
that you, sorry,
You meant the hard copy, right? For all of
yeah,
us. Hmm.
a PDF document, a hard copy on your mobile, as well as a hard copy on phone, or sorry, in hand.
Hmm.
So it's best to have in your phone electronically and in your hand. And in case they ask, you should present this quarantine plan to them. They are mostly going to ask you about your quarantine plan, like verbally. They're not going to just look at paper and be like, okay, fine, you can go. No, they're going to ask you questions about, hey, where are you going to be doing your quarantine, and where are you going to be arranging groceries from? So you just need to be confident there. They're not really looking for any right or wrong answers. They just want to make sure that you're confident enough. You know that, okay, yes, where I will be getting groceries from. As long as you can explain yourself, as long as you can convince them that, hey, I know what I'm doing, I know where I'll be doing my quarantine, I know where I'll be arranging groceries from. They're not going to go too deep in details. As long as you can do this, you're good. As long as you can convince them, you're good. They won't take a lot of your time, just basically talking about what program you're going in, how long is your program, your quarantine plan, just these basic questions that you should anyways know because you're traveling by yourself.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so just I just want to add one more point. So for those who are traveling to the Canada for first time, so don't get confused. You won't have your study permit with you, but you would have your letter of introduction on your GCK account, as I mentioned in my previous video as well. So you would need to carry the hard copy of your letter of introduction as well. And once you hand it over to the officer in Canada, they will issue you a study permit over there after you answer their questions,
Yep.
right? Okay, let's move on to the ninth question. So I think you already answered a little bit about this question. So this question is, were the officers in Canada going in details about your quarantine plan, and what questions did they ask you about your quarantine plan? Also, did they ask anything about your financial support or like proof of funds in details?
So, first about the quarantine plan, as I mentioned, it's best if you have a hard copy as well as a soft copy on your phone. Uh, in case they ask for it, just provide them a hard copy. In case they don't ask for a hard copy, they'll probably just ask you verbally, as I mentioned, that where are you going to do your quarantine? How are you going to arrange your groceries? How are you going to be going to your quarantine location from the airport? Just like very, very basic questions. Again, they are not looking for any wrong or right answers. They are looking to see if you're confident enough to explain what you're doing. They want to see if you are really capable of explaining yourself, capable of knowing what you're doing. As long as you can be confident enough and explain them that, hey, this is my quarantine location, this is where I'm getting groceries from, this is how I'll be traveling back to my quarantine location. That's all you need. That's all they want to hear. They don't want to send you back. They want you to come in. They do want it. They are not sitting there to like send you off. They really want you to get into Canada, but it's up to you to answer everything confidently. And as long as you can do that, you're good enough.
And what about this part? So, did they ask anything about your financial support or proof of funds, or did they go in details about it, like if you carried cash or if you had a forex card or anything?
So since I was a returning student, no, they didn't ask me for any financial proof or anything. But I think if you can carry some sort of proof, maybe a letter from your parents, maybe like a financial support letter or something, it's always good to have tons of documents that really support you while you're traveling. So as long as you have it with you, like a hard copy won't hurt. Like a piece, it's just a piece of paper. It won't hurt. They would not go into detail about it. They are not going to be too worried about how you're going to support yourself. In case they ask, just say, okay, my parents will be supporting me, or just show them some kind of financial letter or something. It should be good. But
Mhm.
probably like 90% of the time, they will not ask you much.
And I think you can even show. So, for example, if you take bring dollars in cash from India, you even get a receipt for the cash you purchase. You can show that receipt. And for example, for those students who applied in the SDS category and paid for GIC, they can bring a proof of their GIC receipt and the GIC certificate that they received. So that could also act as a proof of funds, right?
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Let's move on to our last question for the day. So this question is, this question was also one which was asked to me by a lot of people. So this question is, did you find or see anyone, could be a student or worker or anyone, facing problems or getting deported at the Canadian airport? If yes, then why and for what reasons? I think you already answered a bit of it, but could you go a little more in details?
Yes, of course. As I mentioned, they are not looking forward to deporting you. They are not sitting there to send you back to your country. They do not want that. If you do a mistake, like not really a mistake, but as long as your documents are valid, as long as your documents are legit, they are not fake, you should be fine as long as you can explain yourself. Generally, the cases that happened for deportation in the past were because people were carrying fake documents. Second, people weren't even able to explain themselves. For example, you're an officer or I'm an officer and you're coming to me and I'm asking you a very simple question. Hey, why are you traveling to Canada? Like, what program are you going to be studying in? If you cannot answer this simple question, how are you even going to study for your program in Canada?
That's true.
So, as long as you're confident enough, you can answer questions about yourself, not too hard questions, very basic, simple questions about yourself. You can answer those questions. You're confident enough, your documents are legit, you can present every document at the airport. Nobody can send you back. You are paying to come to Canada. They are not looking to send you back. So please be confident and just ignore all the anxiety, deportation news, and all kinds of stuff that comes your way. You are traveling legit, like you are traveling in a legit manner. You are traveling correctly. It's not that you're doing something illegal, so why be scared of it? Just be confident, be yourself. Yeah.
All right, yeah, I do agree with you completely, Shreya. So before we do end this video, I do have one more, not a question, but a request. So would you like to give any tips or any suggestion to the viewers who will be watching this video and who will be coming to Canada anytime soon in 2021 after all these COVID-19 restrictions? Like could be any tips at the airport or any tips in general?
I just really have two tips for you guys. One, very, very important, be confident. You do not have to rehearse your answers, you do not have to learn something. You're just traveling. You just need to, who doesn't know how to talk at the airport, right? You just need to be sure that confident, important. You need to be confident. You need to know how to talk to an officer. You need to know how to convey your messages. You need to know why you're traveling. You need to know about your course. You need to be able to explain yourself at the airport. So, one, be confident. You're not doing anything illegal, so there's nothing to worry about. Number two is very, very important. carry all your documents handy. Keep your documents in a folder, make sure they're all at one place so you can access them like this. You don't want the officer to wait for you to take out your documents from your bag, to search your documents. This is not the right time to do that. Once you're in front of an officer, he will ask you for your documents, and as soon as you can present it to him, he will let you go. So make sure you have your documents in hand. Yeah, that are my two major tips if you're traveling during COVID. And lastly, I would say Canada is a great place to come and study. I spent over 3 years here. So, yep, you're coming to a great place. So just be confident, be happy. You are an independent person now. So, yeah, keep that confidence in yourself and, yeah, just come here and safe travels.
All right. And before I end, I also do have one tip for anyone who is looking to travel to Canada. So basically, this is one thing that I observed personally from India. So, like, if you're looking to book a quarantine plan, and what I saw, because I was also looking for places to quarantine, and sometimes when you book with a person, the person is sometimes greedy and they want you to take the place, and they will say, yeah, you can take my place, but the washroom is shared or the kitchen is shared, and you can use it with your masks on. But no, it's a big no. You are not allowed to share anything at all for the 14 days, and you might not get caught, but if you do get caught, there is a big penalty. So for those who are looking to book the quarantine plan, please book something which is completely private for 14 days. Like should be a private kitchen, private washroom, everything should be private, and you should be isolated for all those 14 days.
Yeah, I would like to definitely add on this. This is something that the immigration officer in Canada is going to ask you.
Mhm.
They are going to ask you about whether you're sharing any sort of amenities. If you say, yes, I'm going to be sharing a washroom or I'm going to be sharing a kitchen, it's a no no. They might just maybe not let you in. This is the problem. You might not be like doing it correct. It's very important, extremely important when I say this, that your place has to be completely private for 14 days. You have to have you have your own bedroom, your own washroom, your own kitchen. You cannot share these amenities with anyone. And in case you do, and you lie to the immigration officer, you are in a pickle. Anyone can anonymously complain about you. It could be anyone. Anyone. You cannot trust anyone like that. It could be anyone. And once that complaint goes anonymously to the government, there are huge penalties, deportation charges, you're deported back to your country. So don't take this risk. It's not worth it.
Right. And I mean, you could book your quarantine plan according to your college or university, which they suggest you. But if you want to
Yeah.
look for something else outside your college plan, then definitely keep all these points in mind. And also, before I end this video, if you want to go ahead and look at the part one of the video where I go in details on all the documents, you guys can check out the video over here on the left side. And yeah, that's about it for today's video. I would like to thank you, Shreya, for joining me in today's video. And before we end, that's about it. Guys, please do subscribe to my channel. Please do leave a like if you find this video helpful or if it was any use to you. And I would be posting more and more informative videos about my journey to Canada. I'll try and bring my sister Shreya in more and more videos, and she will be sharing her experiences as well. So, yeah, till then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Bye everyone. Take care. Safe travels.